I don't think they heard you.
Uh-oh. Folks on Zoom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Could the interpreters please introduce yourselves and share the language access information?
各位家长晚上好，需要国语翻译的，请打专线电话347-966-4114，密码呢是899-821-768井，输入密码后请再按井字，我会在聊天室留下电话号码以及密码 ID，以供大家查阅。谢谢。Okay, the Mandarin is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Bangla, please. Could the Bangla interpreter please share the language line information?
This is Dalwar Sheikh, Bengali interpreter. আমি দেলোয়ার শেখ এখানে বাঙালি ইন্টারপ্রিটার হিসেবে আছি। আপনাদের যদি কোনো কোশ্চেন থাকে তাহলে এখানে বলবেন। থ্যাংক ইউ। বাংলা
Thank you. And Spanish interpretation, please. Could you share the language line information?
Good evening. The following announcement will be in Spanish. Para escuchar la conferencia en español, por favor marcar el 347-966-4114 e ingresar el código de conferencia 226-588-352, símbolo numeral. De nuevo, marcar el 347-966-4114 e ingresar el código de conferencia 226-588-352, símbolo numeral. Por favor, mantener su teléfono en silenciador presionando mute para la calidad de sonido. Si no funciona, estrella 6. Gracias. Spanish announcement completed.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Carol, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Councilmember Angelica Cesario. Present. Councilmember Jonathan Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Elton Dodson.
Here.
Councilmember Ken Eby. Councilmember Angelica Jadunandan. Here. Councilmember Katina Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Kim Wanless. Councilmember Ching Sa Shu.
Yes.
Councilmember Kara Zwirling. Me.
So we have 7 people here in person. Oops.
Present, sorry.
No, that's okay. I think seven people in person and Kim is here online. And so we have achieved quorum, and we can proceed. We need to vote to have a hybrid meeting so that,
Anthony, is it automatic or do we have to vote on the hybrid meeting? It's automatic.
it's automatic. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Karen. Since Kim, who's our parliamentarian, is joining us online tonight, Jonathan's going to step in and check for parliamentary rules.
So the rules of engagement. Tonight's in-person meeting will include a public comment period at the end of the meeting. When you comment, please comment on the topic, respect the privacy of others, and please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually may raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comments. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. If you have a question outside this comment period, please signal it by raising your hand or writing it in the chat. If time permits, we will respond to these additional questions that arise at other times. It is possible that not every comment and or question will be given time, in which case we encourage you to write to the CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. CEC members will also be given a comment period. Members will be called upon and are each permitted 1 2-minute comment and or question.
Thank you. Let's see, is Principal Figueroa in the room? Or did she step away? Okay, if she comes back in, I'll have Principal Figueroa welcome us into her space. For now, Rabbi Aguilar from Councilmember Alexa Avila's office.
Can I take it here? Should I send it there?
I think you should come over here, or I don't know if the camera swivels.
I think it's swiveling. Yeah, it's easier.
Okay, so yeah,
So I can take it from here?
yeah, you can take it.
Good evening, my name is Rob Aguilar, District Director with the Office of Councilmember Alex Aviles. She would like to wish everyone that you all had a great first month of school, and it's so quickly here and gone, and now we're going into October. And as we go into October and November, there is a very important election that's taking place in November. We want to let everyone know that on the back side of the ballot, when you're at the ballots voting, are 3 proposals that will have a lot of impact in our communities. So it's proposals 2, 3, and 4. And the language is a little bit tricky when you go through it and you read it, but essentially the mayor is looking to take away power from the communities in the decision on how land is used throughout our districts. So make sure that when you're voting, you flip your ballot to the other side and look at proposals 2, 3, and 4. Voting in favor of these would eliminate a lot of power that the public would have in how development takes place in our communities. If anyone has questions, they can call our office, 718-439-9012. There's a lot of literature that we can share with you if you want to kind of break down the language.
Great.
Thank
you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it should be on the Thank you. All right. Thank you all for joining us. This is our first school-based CEC meeting of the year. Hi, Ken. And we are delighted to be having it at Harbor Middle School. Even if we're having a few technical difficulties along the way. We've had the pleasure of hearing about some of Harbor Middle School's programs last spring. And I'm hoping that once we hear from Principal Figueroa, we'll be able to hear how things are going now that the year is getting started. So we are in the midst of the Jewish High Holy Days. We're in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month, and speaking for myself, I'm so glad to live in a district where we can celebrate our students' many backgrounds and cultures. And at the same time, vulnerability is on our minds. I think I speak for myself, but I know I speak for many others in the community when I say that we are concerned about the threat of the federal administration against the policies that protect trans and gender expansive kids. We're concerned about the escalating attacks against immigrant and asylum-seeking families by ICE, attacks that can tear families apart. On Saturday, Councilmember Kim Sa-Shu and I joined Rob Aguilar, along with neighbors, community members, and elected officials, including Councilmember Alexa Aviles, State Assembly Member Marcelo Matainen, and Comptroller Brad Lander, in a Sunset Park march to say that enough is enough. We're also concerned about language access for our multilingual families. These issues are interconnected. Earlier today, Councilmember Tingfashu again testified before the New York City Council Committee on Education regarding the urgent need for more meaningful language access for multilingual families so that they can support their children's needs and work in community with their schools. What struck me at the march and through Chingsaw's testimony is that in times of vulnerability, community holds even more power. That march was a moment of neighbors showing up for each other, vocally expressing support, providing resources, and just standing together in strength and in pride. We know that this is a challenging moment, and I am glad to be able to rise to meet it with you all in community. Tonight's meeting is also the first joint meeting of CEC 15 and the District 15 President's Council. I'm so glad to be able to welcome Co-President Elizabeth Sanders Grayson, who will be speaking in just a few minutes. She'll be talking about what the President's Council even is and what kinds of supports they offer. We will also hear from Superintendent Alvarez. We'll discuss the working groups that we hope to implement this year as a council, and we'll go through a first round of bylaw review. We also plan to discuss a proposed resolution to stand in support of gender-affirming policies in New York City schools despite federal threats. So all that to say, families who are worried, we see you. As a CEC, our actions may sometimes feel insufficient or slow-moving, but we want you to know that we will continue to stand with you. Keep raising your concerns and keep showing up for one another. I'm glad to be doing this work with you all. So with that, I'll turn it over to Liz for remarks about President's Council. You can stay right where you are.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Liz Grayson. I am the co-president of the President's Council this year. This is my second year. And briefly, what the President's Council does is a group of all the PTAs and the PAs in District 15, group of all presidents, and we meet once a month to discuss ways that we can make a more equitable district, whether that's in sharing knowledge, resources, finances. One of the things that we did last year was that we held workshops to help PTAs help them build their PTAs like businesses. So we host workshops about how to create a 501(c)(3), how to file taxes, how to set up insurance, and we hope to do more of that this year. We are also going to be setting up ways in which we can easily share knowledge. One of the things that we're going to be doing is set up an easy WhatsApp communication so that you can text something you might need, something that you might have to give away that another school could need, just to kind of make sure that everybody feels very accessible to each other in the district. We think that's a really important thing at this time right now. The other thing that we're going to be working on this year, and this is an annual thing that we do in collaboration with Representative Hanif's office. And I know that Hannah is on the meeting tonight. Hi, Hannah, thank you for being here. And she, Representative Hanif's office and the President's Council will be co-hosting the 2025 Fun Run. That is going to be on October 25th, the morning. It meets at the LaFrac Center in Prospect Park. This is a great way to get out on a nice Saturday morning with the family and to help raise money for all the schools in the district. The money is equally divided among Title I schools and schools that have lost their funding recently in the past 2 years. And it also gives an opportunity for schools that don't qualify to raise money to help other schools that do need money, raise money for it. We're really excited about it. It's a great way. If anybody needs help, finding how to register runners and members and stuff like that, please reach out to us and we'll help you get onboarded. But it's a really fun event and there's a lot of school spirit and it's a good time for that. We are, as the President's Council, looking for a recording secretary in order to be able to continue functioning as a President's Council. And I'm also looking for a co-president, which makes the job more enjoyable. But I thank the people who are here tonight from the President's Council. Some of our members, I really appreciate that. And thank you to the CEC for having a joint meeting with us. And for Harbor Middle School for hosting. We appreciate it. So yes, please feel free to reach out with any questions, suggestions, problems, complaints, anything. The President's Council is here for you.
Inviting complaints, Liz.
Oh.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Liz. And Liz and Elton were co-presidents of the President's Council last year. So we've got a lot of shared community knowledge among the folks on this at this table. Principal Figueroa, do you want to say a few words and welcome us to your space? Sorry.
Everyone, welcome. I hope you enjoy the audience.
And the light show.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
We're happy that it's got all this coming along,
Yeah.
right? The students came in this morning. It's been up for so many years, right? But we did quite a few upgrades in the process, right? So in the room, we're trying to see if we can get a solar panel in there soon, which is nice. We were able to upgrade some of the areas of the auditorium because we found a movie, but we stopped, so then we're gonna do some other things, you guys want to know? Guys in the windows, nice. And just, you know. So,
Introduce করতেছে yourself, এখানে আছে এই জন্য ও খুব
Interpretation line, keep going.
so welcome everyone, Harbor Middle School. Right, we're now 6, 7, 8, no longer elementary. I love my elementary children, but I'm a middle school principal. Right, that's my love and passion. And so I'm happy to be able to like really dig into the nuance of what a middle school student can hear. And also prepare our students in our elementary school so that when they get to this middle school, this particularly, because everybody's been coming here, they'll be ready instructionally, emotionally, so it's a good opportunity for them. We offer a lot of career training opportunities here. So for those of you that don't know us, we do have a career training-ish lens. And I want to say ish because it's not official yet. I do have one teacher that is CTE trained through a college course that we did safety last year. Maybe able to get the credentials to potentially become a career training education specialist in our school next year. And that's Captain Chad. So we have a GO Works program. This year we're building our very own GO. We're not doing it to both works anymore. So it's a GO lab experience. We've had a partnership with GO Works for many years. But this year, because we have Captain Jack and his level of expertise, we're actually creating a GO. And it's an opportunity to merge STEAM and science and really create a good physics experience. And so that's what we're doing with our STEAM elective this year. So we have electives in harbor classes as well as our humanities classes. And all of our STEAM classes, our STEAM electives in 6th grade, in 7th grade, cooking, and in 8th grade. So we are looking forward to growing that tilapia and really thinking about how, right, the hydroponics lab supports that function of aquaponics. And so the students are investigating that, they're creating the lab, they're doing hands-on this year. And humanities, we're really digging into the humanities curriculum to ensure that we're prioritizing academic routines, right, specifically, and our labs. Essentially become our project for humanity. Our projects live a lot and thrive in STEAM. Right, they incorporate a lot of science in them. Our new core curriculum has been one of the areas of concentration for the past year. We're really identifying the standards that students need to learn, and then utilizing that which bricks to then rely on to teach it. So doing it the other way around is really important. But then have to understand standards and how to tackle, right? And then really understand how to implement the standard in a way that students can understand, grasp, and monitor, and then assess that standard so that we can really, monitor progress using the MCFS approach. So I'm really excited about the work that we do.
Do you mind just moving a little closer to the mic there, saying that they're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you
Oh, I
on
can
the.
talk louder.
I think it helps with the, yeah. being a bit
So we're
closer.
really excited about the work that we do. We have some tours that come up at the very beginning of the year, every year. We're looking forward to posting some of those tours, out to the public very soon. So that some of our elementary schools can come and tour a bit, check out our classes, talk to our teachers, or student leadership team. And get to know us. But we really think that you do a great job when it comes to practically something, especially for a new school, right? New schools usually start off very slow pace, kind of expedite our learning here. So we do a lot of things. Our partnerships really ground the work that we do as well. And they're neighborhood partnerships, right? Because we want to make sure that the students understand that their community is a learning space. So we do a lot of work with the community as well. A lot of our projects live and breathe in Red Hawk. So I don't know if y'all have any questions for me. No?
We are so appreciative of your time. Yeah. Yeah. And
Thank you.
thanks for making it possible.
And thank you for.
We're grateful for it. Thank you. Superintendent Alvarez, over to, oh, there you are. Here, why don't you sit here? Okay. Are you gonna be able to?
Yeah, yeah. It'll be fine. I won't be able to see this.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so, good evening, good morning. It's been that day. It's been that day, that's true. Good evening, everyone. Today's September 30th, so I'm gonna give the CEC report if we go to the next slide. Just honoring some of the celebrations we have this month, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, which is gonna be this week, remembrance of 9/11, welcoming back, which is a smooth welcome back. It was a great Labor Day because we welcomed back the kids very well. And knowing that September, October is National Hispanic Heritage Month, I'll be hosting or emceeing, I'm assuming, the celebration at Tweed on the 9th. I think it is October 9th next week. So looking forward to anyone who's showing up to that. And then looking forward, we have Italian American Heritage Month as well as Indigenous Peoples Day and Halloween for those who celebrate. So you can just skip 2 slides down. Just going into some of the things this year, these are some videos, or not some videos, but some pictures of celebrating the first day of school across our district. I was at PS 94 signing in students and trying to identify some of our students without knowing the language, very difficult to do. But thankfully, a lot of kindergartners already know how to say their name and write their name. And so it made our choice a little bit easier to figure out what classrooms they belong to. So it was exciting for that day. On the next slide, just a celebration from the summer. District 15 students shine at the basket exhibit at the Barclay Center in July. Several of our students showcased their work that was seen citywide, but also internationally, because there was lots of people coming to see student artwork. So we're excited about that. I'm just going to talk about a little bit about the district team, some priorities and goals. An assessment snapshot, a little bit of our district literacy focus, our MLL snapshot, which was requested by CEC as it relates to our L population and what we're doing for our L population in District 15, and then some upcoming events and workshops. And then I'm going to briefly, you won't see on the slides, touch on AI and the use of technology, guidelines on gender inclusion in our city, at least in our public schools and definitely in District 15, and then a little bit about cyber awareness and safety, which is something that was brought up by CEC to discuss. Next slide. This is just a list of our District 15 team members. If you need access, that's public access that we provide you. So if you need something on L's, you need something on special ed, anything you may need for our particular our district in terms of support, ELA, you might ask a question about math, our district team are readily available for you. So that's just the list of the district team members for District 15 and all of our email addresses, so you can easily reach out to any one of us. Very complicated. As superintendent, my last name is Alvarez, but in the infamous world of DIIT and their wisdom, my last name is cut off with the Z for my email. So it's R Alvarez 4. And a lot of people end up sending things to R Alvarez 4 and get very angry when they feel they're not getting a response. I promise you, I'm very responsive. And if I don't respond, somebody on my team will respond on my behalf. So I want you to know that, and it's usually immediately. With that being said, next slide. Just some district priorities. If you go to the next slide, I'm not going to read these fully, but we're focusing on the marginalized student population as we have. We're going to continue that multi-tiered system of support, access around progress monitoring and helping kids holistically. So not just looking at the academic, but thinking about what's also impacting students' ability to succeed academically. And it can be internal and external factors that are impacting that particular work. We are still doing the curriculum implementation because, as you are aware, this is like year 1 3/4, because we did it for 1 year last year, the year before we started it, and this year we're going to continue. But my biggest emphasis is not necessarily the curriculum itself in terms of wisdom and HMH in our districts or IM in middle school. My biggest focus is the K-5 and the 6-12 literacy and math shifts. There are several shifts, and the curriculum is one of them. We're not focusing on just one. We have to focus on all the shifts, because the shifts are what's going to change the practices of teachers. The curriculum is the guide to help them get there. The shifts are going to help further that work. So we're heavily investing in pre-K through 2nd grade foundational literacy practices. That's through IMSE or Edward or Gillingham. Essentially what we're doing with that is we're making sure that our pre-K to 2nd grade teachers have a strong basis for foundational skills. Colleges don't necessarily prepare for that, and that's something that we're working on. So all schools are working towards their pre-K through 2nd grade teachers and prioritizing them first in foundational skills literacy. Note that we're prioritizing based on the size of the school, because funding is always an issue and it takes time. We're prioritizing teachers who are teaching students with IEPs, ICT classrooms, so the gen ed and special ed component, your 12-to-1 classes, and then also thinking about the multilingual learners. So students who are receiving either dual language or L services are being prioritized over the gen ed classes. Not because they're a bigger priority, but that's where our biggest gaps are, and we need to close gaps. And in order to close gaps, we need to address those gaps first. In some schools, you won't see that. In some schools, you'll just see all the teachers getting it because there might be just 2 classes per grade or 3 classes. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Obviously, project-based learning, which has been the inception of partnership between myself and CEC, and making sure that this continues to thrive in our district. So you're going to see a lot more of that. Strengthening ICT models, professional development, and visitations. And we're doing some executive leadership coaching for our principals. Some of our assistant principals who have asked with ELECT, which is an organization that supports New York City public schools in developing the leadership of our principals even further. And we've done that with our teams, and we're doing more job embedded coaching to support teachers in their classroom so that they could see what we're asking them to do being done by someone else who may not be in their class to support their learning in that process. And then we're going to continue to address chronic absenteeism. And as you'll see later, when I came in, we're about 32% chronic absenteeism. We're at 21%. That's still high, but we're way above the city's average. And we continue to reduce that and continue to work towards reducing that. On the next slide, I'm not going to go through this. This would be for you to go through. But this is overall the goals that we have for our district comprehensive education plan. Each month, what I'll do is I'll share one of the priorities at each meeting, just to give you overview in the next 4 to 5 months of what we have been planning to do, the action steps and the things we're doing to address that. Closer to the middle of the year, I'll give an evaluation of where we are in that process, just so that you are aware. On the DLT meeting, which is a district leadership team meeting where I have President's Council members as well as CEC members participate, they will get monthly updates on those particular things, just so that you're aware. So the next slide. A little bit of our state snapshot. And if you go to the next slide, this is the highest we've been in District 15 for more than 10 years. So we're in an upward trajectory. The blue is us. The orange line is New York City, citywide.
What quality are you referring to? We're up.
Say that again.
You said we're up. What are we up?
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is ELA proficiency. Yeah, yes. We're up by 6.4% from last year to this year. but this is the highest we've ever been as a district in the past 10 years. I want to note that this is also the largest number of students we've actually had tested, which gives us a better indication as to where we are holistically as a district. In the past, we had a lot of students opt out, which is hard for us to gauge where we were as a district. Now that we have so much more students participating in the standardized assessments, it's a tool for us to determine how do we improve practices in schools, which is also part of the MTSS process that I'll talk about a little later. So in ELA specifically, third grade had the highest proficiency we've ever had. We had 71.1% of our kids on or above grade level. That's significant. That's showing that what we're doing in our earlier grades with literacy and foundational skills is working. Third through fifth grade, higher proficiency than sixth through eighth grade, and that's something we're looking into. And all accountability subgroups for ELA at recent highs in proficiency, with the exception of our Black students. And that's something that we're looking at deeper and deeper and deeper this year. As a matter of fact, I was in a big school, was it this last week already, doing my rounds of what are we doing to improve practices for our Black students particularly, because that's somewhere where we're seeing a gap. On the next slide, to your point, is the mathematics. Now we did 0.4, which doesn't indicate that it was a move up or down. That could have been 1 or 2 students, that could have been, I'm saying 1 or 2, but a small group of students that could have impacted. But we're still at the highest place we've ever been comparative for the past 10 years in this district. So there's something that we're doing that's making these improvements, and we know that it takes time. You have a 10-year time frame that's showing for you. Also note that this is the first year that we implemented IM with our middle schools. So there's going to be an expectation of an implementation dip, which means students are learning while teachers are also learning. So it is expected that this is going to happen, for at least for us. The fact that we only dropped by 0.4 is significant for us because that was a very, very small dip for us, which we're actually happy about. We've actually moved up in the status of districts as it relates to comparing districts. I don't have that information in front of me because they haven't publicly shown that, but I've done the numbers by myself behind the scenes to identify where we are. Third grade's highest proficiency, 72.7 in mathematics. 3 through 5, again, similar data, stronger than the 6 through 8, but remember IM implementation. And then all accountability group subgroups near recent highs in proficiency, and again, except for the Black students. But to note on the bottom of the chart where you will see from year to year, from 2022 to 2025, the percentage of students that opt out, and the numbers have significantly gone down across our district. And I want to be clear, not in some schools, in all of our schools. So even our traditionally high opt-out schools have less opt-out students. It helps us help our schools be better at supporting our students academically and instructionally. Just on another note that I have data that I don't have on the screen, when it came to the screener data, because the screener data is more recent than the state data, because the state data was in May, but the screener data is in June. 66% achieved end of year benchmarks compared to 63% the previous year in ELA. And our biggest growth was our ML-EL population, which grew by 7%. And in mathematics, 63 achieved end of year benchmark, up from 59% the year before. And our growth again was in Ls and MLs at an 8% increase. Again, while that's significant growth, we still have a lot of work to do with our Black students, particularly in certain communities and neighborhoods that we're working on to address this year. So there's a heavy emphasis on when we go to schools, reviewing their MTSS process for those individual, not groups, not the whole class. We're talking about individual students. And the deputy and myself, when we're doing observations with our principals, we are actually calling out the names of the students for the principal so that when we're going into the classroom, we can actually monitor that student and see what that student's getting that's different than what the other students are getting in what's called tier 1 instruction, which is the core learning that's happening in the classroom. We go to the next slide. As a result of that, our literacy supports are going to be around the next slide. 3 main areas: strengthening and tightening that tier 1 instruction so that kids are not being pulled for tier 2 and tier 3 instruction as much. Creating that win period, which is a period where they're allowed to be homogeneously grouped to address the gaps that they face and whatever it is that they're facing a gap in, so that it's not new content that's being taught while those kids are being pulled out, but everybody's getting what they're supposed to get during that period. And we're working towards schools getting multiple days of that throughout the week to support them in an area to strengthen. So this is also for students who are strong academically, who need to be pushed even further than where they are academically. And so that tier 1 instruction is something we want to strengthen. We want to strengthen our K-2 literacy, so the teachers are not just teaching curricula, but understand what in the curricula they're teaching. And when they need to make shifts, that they're making them as it relates to early literacy skills, such as the phonemic awareness and the phonics and fluency that kids need in order to be able to read by 3rd grade. And then the multi-tiered system of support. How are we thinking about what are the external factors and some internal factors that might be impeding a student's ability to either stay concentrating in the class or being able to function in a manner that allows them to learn and identifying what those things are. So, for example, it could be attendance. If attendance is an issue, how do we address the attendance? If lateness is an issue, how are we helping the family figure out how to get the kid on time, whether that's a walking school bus or making phone calls in the morning? Maybe not having first period ELA if we know that consistently this class has a lot of absences and moving first ELA to 2nd or 3rd period and providing something else in the morning. Like in Big School, she knows the boys love basketball, so she has a basketball program in the morning that gets them into school so that they're not missing first period, right? She knows her girls love dance, so she has a dance program in the morning to make sure that the girls are getting in here. And so just figuring out multi-tiered ways of how to address the gaps that students are facing. Maybe there are internal issues that we need to be aware of so that we could support. Maybe a kid doesn't function well sitting in this particular or learning in this particular way. So those are the 3 main areas you're going to hear a lot about this year as it relates to how we're pushing ELA in our district. Next slide. I'm not going to go into the details, but this is how priority 1 looks. This is the overall arching goal there, and then these are the steps. I kind of explained the steps, so I'm not going to go into details, but you're welcome to look at this and ask questions at your leisure. Next slide. And again, we're strengthening our daily lessons. We're supporting early readers. We're helping students where they need it. And then we're also figuring out how we're providing home resources. And when I think about that, I want to turn to the next slide. This is our new version, on the next slide. This is our new version of the guides that support HMH for Wit and Wisdom curricula. This is being provided not only to parents, but also to teachers so that you know what's happening in the classroom and what the expectations are as it relates to the standards and how they have to be addressed in the classroom. But what we're doing differently this year, and with that slide and the next slide, you've received this last year, we've updated it, the strategic literacy plan. What we're doing differently this year is that there's going to be family workshops at the district level, but also at the individual school levels. We're training all of our PCs, our parent coordinators, to understand the guides and use the guides to support parents. So the guide no longer is something that we just give to you and say, hey, we did our job as a district. But here to the parent coordinator, let's show you 2 or 3 standards in kindergarten that kids have to master. And we're going to help you teach that to your parents to support parents in areas where they struggle. And we are, Crenshaw, as we pay attention, we are making sure that we're doing this in all the languages, well, not all, let me correct myself, the 4 main languages that we speak in our district, which is English, Chinese, Bangla, Spanish. Those are the 4. And so we're going to be able to provide that in those particular languages as well. Separate from this, you're also going to get those foundational skills where it helps parents. It literally is going to tell you what you can do at home if you choose to. But you're also going to know what the teachers are doing with your child in school so that you are familiar and aware of what's going on and how to do it. And there's going to be videos and everything else. We've pretty much almost finalized with that. And I'll talk about the family workshop that's happening this month to get you started on that. Next slide. So this is some home language data that was asked for the district. Currently, these are the numbers as of June of 2025. We will be having updated numbers as the new EDAT report comes out, but we won't have one until the month of October. And so right now, at the end of the EDAT is the report that talks about, thank you for that. The EDAT is the report that basically talks about everything that has to do with our English language learners as it relates to services not being serviced who's passed the assessment, who hasn't passed the assessment, who has made strides in their language development and acquisition, how money allocation is being spent at every school or across the district. And so that's that report. This report shows you our language breakdown for the top 10 languages spoken in District 15 to your left. And the ELLs receiving last year, as a district, we had 98.4% of our students receiving their L mandated services. Citywide was at 91.3, so we were above the city's average. In terms of L's and bilingual programs, we have 40% of our students in bilingual programs because we have a large number of bilingual programs in District 15, compared to the city where they only have about 17.9% of the students in their L programs. So we have a larger program. There are 277 bilingual teachers certified at the end of last school year. We have a lot more this year because of class size reduction. But we had 32 bilingual programs in this district. 14 schools house those bilingual programs, and 3 languages, Spanish, Chinese, and French. Now, the difference here is that the translation and interpretation funds at the end of May show that District 15 spent 55.2% of their allocation compared to the city's 69.4%. But that number is a little skewed for you, right? Because we have the resources in our schools, we are less likely to need to pay for those resources outside of our school. So I'll give you a perfect example. When it comes to the CEC meetings, these PowerPoints are translated. We're the only district that not only provides a PowerPoint to our CEC, well, we're one of the only districts that provides a PowerPoint. I can guarantee you're probably the only district that has it translated into 3 other languages. And with the support of the CEC, we're now getting these out to you at least a day or 2 before, which is difficult, but we're doing it. And I'll tell you why. We're not paying for the service. This service is coming from our schools, of the people in our schools who are able to translate this information for us. So that's just another indication, even though we're lower than the city in terms of the spending, it's because there's not a need for us to spend on so much translation because we have those services in our schools, because we have the staff to be able to do that in our schools, compared to where some other places may have to go for outside services to get translated because they may not have the staffing or the support to do it at individual schools. So I just wanted to give you that. There was a report that came out not too long ago about the L services. We are really strong in District 15, but we also have the largest number of L's in Brooklyn North. So to that effect, it's a huge priority for all of our schools across our district, where it may not necessarily be, not that it's not a huge priority in other districts, but may not be the pressing priority in a particular district. For example, special ed might be a bigger priority in another district or something else, right? Next slide. Next 2 slides, just to give you some information. Middle school admissions deadlines. I'm not going to go over this, but here are the dates. You have them. There's access to that. Please keep those in mind for middle school applications. Please note District 15 is a lottery-based district, and we are not a screen district. Next slide. Our high school admissions process. Tuesday, October 7th starts the process. Here's the information. The Shazats are available. Registration closed October 31st. And just give me all the dates for the high school. Next slide. Mark your calendars, our district events. We'd love to see everyone there, especially our CEC and our President's Council members in partnership in doing this particular work. Our day of service is always usually the day after Martin Luther King Day, to show our way of providing service to our community in our district. We usually do it with City Harvest. Our arts showcase, which shows all of our schools represented in the way they show their art medium. Our project-based learning fair, which every school participates in. Our District 15 musical, it is actually going to be Aladdin this year. We're excited. We had over 200 auditions in the past couple of days. We're going to select that to about 85 to 90 students. So we're excited about that process, ranging from grades 3 through 12, representing every single one of our schools in our district. We're going to have our STEM Exploration Day that has been extended down to 4th grade. So it's going to be grades 4 through 12, where we do at Harbor High School or Governor's Island area. And then we have our District 15 recognition ceremony. This is going to be slightly different this year. This is recognizing those that pay homage to supporting our schools in our district, as well as parents who provided homage and support to our districts through volunteering and other methods. And so this year, that's what it's going to look slightly differently. And then to be determined the date, we're going to be doing a district carnival. so that we're inviting the entire community as a whole district to come a part of that. It's going to be hosted by our Brooklyn High School of the Arts and the rest of the schools in the community. So we're excited about that. Next slide. Here they are. The flyers are there. And then we'll go to the next slide. Just as a reminder, the family engagement piece, we have our first virtual workshop talking about the math and reading family overview. This is just a high level overview to let you know what's entailed in this information. The individual schools are going to go deeper into those guidebooks. I'm going to be looking for feedback from the community. What's not here, I'm hosting focus groups in 5 different neighborhoods within our district. That includes all of the schools, but it will be by neighborhood. So I'll have a Kensington Windsor Terrace session. I will have a Park Slope session. I will have a Sunset Park session. I will have a Red Hook Gowanus session. And then I think there's one more session that I have. That's going to come through our parent coordinators. And it's going to look how the community wants it. There's some questions that I'm going to ask. And I want the honest feedback of where people are. And the reason why I'm doing it this way, it allows for each community to have their individualized voice. And then I collectively identify what is the collective voice. So there are things that I might be able to address in each community, I will do so. But when there's a collective need across all of our communities, then I can do that collectively. And that just allows for some of the voices that are unheard or unseen sometimes, because some voices can be louder than others. So creating that space for the different communities to have their voice. What's going to happen is the PCs are going to have the opportunity to inform me based on what the community wants, how that meeting is going to go. Is it going to be a virtual meeting? Do you want me to be in person? Where's the location you want me to go? Is it going to be during the daytime? Is it going to be midday? Is it going to be after school? Is it going to be in the evening? So just giving you that heads up as to what's to come. Next slide. Our family workshops, scope and sequence of the math and reading, which is the shared. Reading part 2 is going to go deeper into showing you how to use those guides, including the math as well. Social and emotional learning, conflict resolution, and mental health. These are the things that the community had asked for. So these are the things that we're going to address. And then I think the last slide, which is Q&A. Before I get to that, I just wanted to share something that was asked by the CEC. And so we're thinking about the possibility of December, talking about AI and the use of technology in schools during our December town hall. We're working with the DIIT partners to do some of that work. In an effort to support teachers, we're going to be supporting teachers in what's called a common sense approach for teaching healthy and safe online habits. The PD is designed to help empower staff with practical strategies to promote digital safety, focus, balance, and well-being among students. That's going to happen on election day, and then we're going to select the Monday PD time to offer this to schools where the spots, those are the people who deal with the technology at the school, are going to get trained to be able to disseminate that training at their individual schools. As it relates to guidelines on gender inclusion, so I want to be clear about one of our core values. Every child deserves to feel safe, supported, and respected at school. Harassment, bullying, or discrimination of any kind, whether based on race, culture, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, students with diverse learning needs, or any other reason, has no place in our schools or in District 15. Our goal is simple. Every child should walk into school every day knowing they belong and can focus on their particular learning. I'm very well aware with what has happened with the United States Department of Education under the Trump administration in threatening to withhold magnet school grant funding from 3 large school districts, New York City being one of them. New York City does not agree to the deadline, that was given by September 23rd. Where $15 million for fiscal year 26 will not be awarded, and city officials had expected $36 million will be impacted over the next 3 years across the grants for the magnet schools. None of the schools in District 15s are impacted by this at all. And New York City Public Schools policy remains in effect. As you heard the chancellor not too long ago, DOE guidelines state students must have access to facilities consistent with their gender identity and may not be required to use an alternative facility. Students' bathroom access remains governed by city, state rules protecting gender identity. As it relates to the DOE policy, the DOE permits single gender restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms in schools. Students must be provided access to facilities consistent with their gender identity asserted at school. Schools must provide reasonable alternative arrangements for any student who expresses a need or desire for increased privacy, but must never be forced upon students nor presented as the only option. Furthermore, any arrangements must be provided in a non-stigmatizing manner that provides students privacy and is not marginalizing or disruptive for the student. I want to thank you all for bringing this to my attention. There are no proposed changes to New York City Public Schools as it relates to what I understand from our legal policies or operations as a result of the alleged potential withholding of federal funds described in the article you shared. We will share if we learn of any changes. We're not expecting to see any changes. You can look that up under state law and authority, New York State's human rights law. And that's what I'm going to say about that. But I just wanted to be very clear with the language and terminology.
Thank you. Yeah. So, at this point, do any members of the public, either in person, on Zoom, or on the translation lines, have any comments or questions? You can raise your hand or write in the chat if you would like to speak. Robbie?
Question, you mentioned that only 65% of the translation and interpretation budget is being used. What happens to the remaining budget?
So usually what happens to the remaining budget is that it goes back to the city, it's lost funding. But those fundings are earmarked under a SAM, a school allocation memorandum, where schools have to use that funding specifically for the items that are allowed to be used. In many of the cases, a lot of the things that are being allowed to be used are not necessarily needed at many of our schools. So they can't use the funding in other creative ways as it relates to what the SAM says they can actually spend it on, which also becomes part of the issue.
So there's no providing overall city budget?
Correct. And that happens with any leftover money in any school's budget for any allocations that's provided. In some cases, if it's a state grant, that money goes back to the state.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from people in person, on Zoom, or in the translation lines?
I don't know if this is the right time, but you mentioned the Cyrus.
Yes.
So my child was taking S10,
Mhm.
and there was an incident in computers where there was a pop-up.
Yes, I'm aware of
Yeah.
that. What I can answer to that, just for the awareness of that, and then I'll take your question for sure. We're looking into that. We're trying to determine if the technology that was used was actually the student's technology or the school's technology, because we are clear that the school's technology has many things blocked, even the things that aren't necessarily blocked from a parent's perspective when they're home, when they put parent cards in, there's even further blockage of a lot of things. So we're trying to figure out what happened in that particular situation. That's an isolated situation, so we're addressing that. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's happened 3 different times. And it's during school hours, during like school sanctioned, like kids were being blocked from an activity. So I'm just curious, one, how did that happen? And two, like, what are the steps around sort of shoring up? Like, I don't know if teachers were maybe using free, sites that.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's a major.
Yeah, I can say that even if they were using free sites, those things, a lot of things are heavy firewalled for the DOE, so a lot of those things are blocked. Honestly, it's the only school that I've heard that this has actually happened to in our particular district, and I've actually surveyed our schools to find out if this is something that's going on. It seems to be an isolated incident at PS10, and I don't know if the technology that's being used is being used by someone's personal, for example, computer that may not have those particular firewalls, and they're using, for example, their cell phone for hotspot service. There's a lot of things I'm not aware. DIIT is aware of it, and they're investigating that. Whenever those things come to our attention, which I know our CEC president has brought it to my attention, it was immediately reported. and they're looking deeper into why that continues to happen. That's why I looked up for the information about teaching teachers about the safety, which we're going to be doing in the month of October and November. In addition to that, we've talked about having something for our parents sometime in December for a town hall. But then we're also working with the IIT, because I don't know if you're aware, but cyber awareness is actually Cyber Awareness Month for New York City Public Schools. I'm gonna leave that with your CEC so that they can share that, how to keep our children safe online, but also the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is for our city. So something that PS10 can look into and look deeper. I can assure you that there will be training on election day and that the schools can take advantage of doing that. And that's something I want you to discuss at your SLT, so that this is actually something that is a mandate for that particular school as it relates to, especially since I know for sure this has been so far an isolated incident at PS10, something to address. But regardless if it's 10 or not, we don't want it to happen in other schools, so we're gonna be addressing this. I also know that there's other schools, I know 154, for example, there's been a concern around screen time and things like that. So that's what we're looking into, working in partnership more with the IIT to support our schools more with technology around as we continue to use it more and more.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from people in person or on Zoom or in the interpretation lines?
So from Councilmember Hanif's office, Hannah put in another plug for the PTA Fun Run, which is October 25th. And just a reminder that that raises funds for Title I schools and schools that have lost Title I funds in recent years. Hannah shared a link, which I will also add to the agenda for folks who may be in the room and not able to access the Zoom chat at the moment. Thank you.
And I believe parent pointers will likely be sharing all of this over the next couple of weeks as well. Correct.
Yes, they have been, and it's also in their PC weekly agendas for them to do so as well.
Okay, I don't believe that we have anybody else. Last call for questions or comments for the superintendent. Amazing job. Yeah, I guess we
I didn't even have to.
yeah. So now CEC questions and comments. Katina said we should probably do that. So I will just start at this end with Ken. Do you have any questions or comments, and we'll work our way down the table?
Well, I just thank you for the presentation. And the question one that always comes up first for me, and I'm speaking to other school leaders, is around access. And so I'm just curious and wondering about the access that considerations are being made with respect to some of the training manuals that you discussed on ELA and math teaching in terms of engaging with families where parents are not necessarily available to support homework at home. It's a consideration of where resources are being directed to schools to help our teachers provide.
Yes, so teachers have been provided this, and when our instructional team is doing support for schools, they're using the guide as part of their work. So that's something that's new that's happened this year, that they're using the guides that we've created to support them in the work. But what's going on beyond that is some of the work around ensuring that we're actually training our PCs to support our parents with the particular guides. But as I'm hearing you and understanding that some of the parents don't necessarily have time to come, for example, to those meetings for other competing reasons that occur, how do we provide that access to those families? So for one, the guides will also be on the district's website. So there will be access to be able to do that, and we'll have PCs sharing where parents can actually get that information because it's also in multiple languages. But then also thinking about how those PCs are actually conducting their meetings, not just that some of them are in person, but how can they do some virtual meetings so that parents might access in a different way, and then possibly recording some of those meetings and sharing those videos so parents can listen at their own leisure and time. So those are some of the things that I can add to supporting parents around.
I think I think that's virtual parent teacher conferences, for example, are a tremendous benefit for families, two or maybe parents or one parent to be able to access those resources. So that's a great resource. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ken. Angelica?
I just wanted to say thank you for addressing the letter from the federal government. And I've told the council, I've talked to you one-on-one, I feel very reassured that you're on our team. And we were just saying how we thought you might get a little pushback at my meeting, but thank you for listening to what we brought to you last year. It's a crazy time. I feel like this is not the last they're gonna bring to us. But being firm in everything.
Yeah, definitely. I could assure you that regardless of what administration we have, we'll continue to move the work that we've been moving. I don't see us going off course on the work that we've started since before me, my predecessor, and me continuing that work. I do not see myself moving any way, shape, or form back. And again, with however the city decides to go, we know that regardless of what happens, we're gonna have a lot more scrutiny from the national level. But as a superintendent, I just say bring it. Kara.
I also wanted to just say thank you for your really strong words of support on that topic. That was very heartening for me to hear that. And so want to thank you for noting the lack of impact specifically on the district team, because I had actually gotten that question from a lot of people. And definitely that was one of my questions. Was that money flowed from us at all? I wasn't aware of this thing that's happening at PS10, but I assume it will be, but I want to just ask anyway, will the findings be shared across schools so that if they're doing something weird that.
Certainly, what I can do is I can report it through CEC, and then I also will report it to our principals in terms of what's going on, in terms of how we move forward. The IT will let us know what's going on with that.
Perfect, because it sounds like if it's something like a teacher is using a hotspot because the internet access.
Right.
Through that would replicate itself.
Yes, easily, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elton?
Nothing except to, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Tina?
I just wanted to ask, so on the ELA and math proficiencies that you showed, and this, the strength of those numbers, but the fact that that strength was not showing up in the same way for the community of Black students, was there a decrease, or did the Black student numbers just not increase in the same way that the overall student community?
In a sense, it didn't increase the same overall way, but I shared with you, and I was reluctant to share this data with you because I'm not interested in proficiency as I am interested in growth. You can only go from where a kid is, not from where you want a kid to actually be. And so if a child, for example, is 2 years behind grade level, it's less likely for a kid to become proficient than next year. It can happen, but it's less likely. So what I measure is, where do you get the kid and where do you move the kid? If in a year, the kid gets the same score that they got last year, I don't know if you're aware, a kid got a level 1 and they got a score of 250. And then this year, they got a level 1 and they got a score of 250. Do you all know that that's actually 1 year worth of progress? It doesn't sound like that, does it? It sounds like the kid got the same score, they're still failing. No, that's actually considered 1 year progress. Think about it. They were assessed in first grade and something, they got 250. Now they're in second grade and they got 250 again. That's the second year. So they got a year's worth of progress, except it doesn't look like that to a parent. And so I'm always more interested in how transparent we are with parents around what growth we have seen in students. Because growth is an indicator of teaching happening, right? It tells me that kids are able to move academically. And so that means that over time, they're closing their own achievement gap. So for example, in the Bronx, we saw a lot of students growing while they made growth to level 3s and 4s. There were a lot of kids who were at level 2s. But that story isn't captured, because what's captured is just the proficiency. What people didn't capture, and for example, District 7, I happened to review it a lot because I was a District 7 superintendent. The level 1s exponentially went down, and the level twos exponentially went up. So whatever's happening there is working. It just needs more time for it to continue to work. So yeah, I'm thankful that you brought that up, because I'm always iffy about proficiency, because as parents, we think about proficiency, but really, when you're thinking about your child, is my child learning? It's all about growth. How much are they growing from where they started? And that's the most important thing to me, because that signifies that teaching and learning is happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to sixth the thanks for you and how you continually advocate and support our students and families in the community. I had one question it's a question actually raised in my kids' SLT as well, around the multi-tiered system of support work and the real focus, which I appreciate, on the once or multiple times a week targeted instruction. And so I know in my children's school, they're over like an 8-week period working with a select group of students with a teacher one-on-one for a certain amount of time, while other students are doing other activities. And so while it makes a lot of sense to me, I also get concerned about the mental health and labeling that can happen in those spaces where there are a specific number of students who are always working one-on-one with the teacher to get support, while other students are playing games on iPads and doing other things.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that's not what MTSS really is.
Right.
So that just needs for us to reiterate that information, and we do have a principals conference on October 7th that we will reiterate again what it's actually supposed to be. And what I'll do also is, for the next meeting, I'll share with you what the MTSS framework is, so that you as the CEC and our parents will post it on our website so that parents can see. It's already on the DOE's website, but we'll make sure you have access to it on our site, because it's easier for you to. I know the DOE's website is very difficult to manage or navigate, even for me. I'll make sure that we give you that, so that you're aware of what should be happening during that time.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Thank you for attending. I want to echo what everyone else said, and especially on the issues of gender equity. And I will say, I think some of the public comments, Mayor Adams said about wanting to change our policies was concerning, but I was happy and reaffirmed and, felt good that Chancellor Harris Ramos kind of spoke out in support of continuing to protect our students, and that you're doing the same. I had two questions, comments. One was kind of building on Katina's prior one around what a support look like for Black students. And maybe we don't have time for that today, but I think it would be helpful to kind of hear. I know you said a district priority is kind of supporting marginalized groups and looking into what practices we're implementing to support those.
Yeah. So briefly, our marginalized groups are based on individual schools and what their marginalized population is for each school, because it's gonna look different, right? So 107 marginalized group might look different from a 15s marginalized group, might look different from a 958 marginalized group, depending on what we're looking at based on the data at each individual school. So we're working with going deeper in that work on what that looks like, to actually look at student work and identify what are some of the misconceptions and gaps. That also leads to, does the teacher really understand what is expected of the standard? Because sometimes they're teaching curricular and they're not really thinking about how does the curricular align to what the standard is asking. And so there's some work to have to do with that. There are also some other variables that are impacting some of our schools as it relates to how they're supporting that particular work of moving our Black students, right? I'm fighting for more resources, for example, for our Black and brown schools. Because we're District 15 and it's considered overwhelmingly an affluent district, the city sometimes doesn't see those pockets of where additional resources are needed. And so that might go to a district like my former District 7, because the entire district is in need of that. And so it's easy to blindside some of the schools in our district because we perform so well as a district.
Right.
And when you're looking at subgroups of students or groups of students, right, different groups of students, there's a gap. And so I'm constantly fighting for additional resources to fill those gaps, which is why I'm pushing for more DYCD programs for after school, particularly in those particular neighborhoods. Some of the things that we did here at 676, right? 15 is where a lot of our work has to happen with that realistically, and 124, the two schools that we are heavily emphasizing. And so as a result of that, one of the other things that we've done is we have 2 reading interventionists that are provided to us by the DOE to provide support to our schools. They are strategically supporting those specific 2 schools with intentionally targeting the students who for 2 to 3 years have consistently not been moving. Remember I talked about growth? So I want to address those students and those gaps in those schools. So these interventionists are specifically targeting just those 2 schools. While they support the whole district, the focus is those schools with the 18 to 20 students that they're each working with at each of those individual schools. Now, that may look like a small number, but when you're thinking about that number in a smaller school, that's a big number for that school's community. So that's just one way that we're trying to address that gap. I hope that kind of like,
It does,
yeah.
it does. So your accountability metrics that are like very targeted.
Yes.
where people are looking at.
By individual students, in some cases, we're looking like names of students, like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so when I go to a school like Big or any principal, I'm like, okay, talk to me about this list of 20 kids that I just shared with you. What's going on with these kids? Does it match the kid that you see need support? Tell us yes or no. And that's where those conversations are starting to happen. That's happening this year. And to Jonathan's point, just adding earlier, because MTSS is so new for some schools, not for others, but for some schools, we are doing a lot of that work, heavy lifting at our AP and principal conferences to get them deeper into that work that they may not have been doing prior to this. So this might be one of the schools or a few schools that need to still do that work. Yeah.
That's great that you're taking that targeted approach. I just had one more question. There was something you said that I didn't quite understand. You mentioned there are 277 bilingual certified teachers, and you said there are more this year due to the class.
Yes. So class, yes. So right now, let's say there were 28 students in a particular class last year. And let's say that school decided they got awarded class size reduction money. So this year, that bilingual class may have gone from 1 class to 2 classes. So now you need 2 teachers. So now I need another teacher. So 277 last year, but this year I can assure you that that number went up because we hired 110 new teachers for this district, just on class size alone. You see that? So out of that 110 teachers, some of them are special ed, some of them are gen ed, some of them are content specialists, but some of them are bilingual teachers. Yeah. So we're gonna have more bilingual teacher data this year than we did, more teachers this year than we did last year's numbers. Does that clarify?
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Jeff, do you have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Kim, do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a question regarding, once again, the Black students who are performing lower. And I appreciate that your team is looking at specific names regarding how teachers are meeting the academic needs. Has there been consideration for the SEL needs of those students? And in addition, the degree to which teachers' expectations are playing a role on the students' performance?
Yes to both questions, right? So I can firmly share that we visited a school last week and I shared with you, and we saw instruction, and it was some really good instruction, but what we also saw that there was so much scaffold for some students that that instruction no longer was rigorous on the grade level. It was still grade level content, but it wasn't rigorous enough because it wasn't challenging the student to think independently. So yes, that's part of what we're looking at. What are the expectations of these particular students, and are the expectations lowered as a result of learned helplessness or what teachers are considering themselves as being trauma for the students and using that as the excuse not to hold students accountable at the grade level or to support them at the grade level. In terms of SEL, that's a huge part of the MTSS process and identifying where are the gaps and where can we close those gaps. So for example, we've been using specifically designed instruction, where we're actually in some schools looking at how are they looking at, for example, a student's IEP and determining what are the things that the IEP says that the kid needs. For example, if they need visuals or if they need one-to-one correspondence or if they need constant checking in, and identifying how are we using those strategies individually when students are learning at the grade level content in the classroom. How are we checking their social emotional well-being? Is there something that they need? Is there breaks that they need? what are some of the things that we need to do to address some of the gaps that they're facing that are not school related, but are impacting their ability to stay focused in school? So all those things and pieces are part of the MTSS process. So in a lot of schools, they have MTSS teams that they're actually looking at students holistically, attendance, lateness, what's going on at home, what might not be going on at home. And this is not just for the Black students, but this is something that's targeting those particular students as it relates to what we're looking at schools and holding schools accountable for as we go visit schools this year.
Thank you.
Thank
We have
you.
one- Yeah, Kevin, sure. There was one final comment in the chat. I would like to share that another way to support Black and brown students is to push DHS to stop mid-year shelter moves. It is hugely destabilizing the students, families, and schools when students in temporary housing are being moved for no reason. DOE should be advocating for a no move policy.
Yeah, I thank you for that statement. I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. We have, as a DOE, been pushing when we are aware that this is happening to certain families, and in some cases, we've been able to stop the move of the student. Not in all cases, unfortunately. Every case is different because it relates to a lot of varying factors that I'm not always privy to, and that could be something about status because of what the law requires. That could be something based on whether it's a DV case, domestic violence case. Maybe it's because they found them another location. The statutes of the limits of the law as it relates to what can and cannot happen. So yes, what I would advocate more is for our CEC and our parents to get heavily involved in going to meetings of DHS to advocate for that, because we're advocating it from the New York City Public Schools, but we don't own that division or service. And so I would implore our community to be more heavily involved in the meetings that happen at DHS to advocate even further for the members and communities that we serve. And I think that that would go a longer way in helping to push, but certainly from my end as a superintendent in District 15, when these are brought to my attention, we've been pushing to advocate for giving more time or at least creating the systems and structures for the kid to get to school without barriers before they have to wait 6 to 7 days for the busing to change and so on and so forth. And so we're working on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Sure. All right, I want to, first of all, just encourage anybody in the room who needs to stand up and stretch and get some food, please do. There's plenty, and I know these meetings are long. I would like to put forward a motion to shift the agenda a little bit. When we developed the agenda, the resolution to support gender affirming policies was not ready for vote, but the revisions that were needed have been made. And I think that that may be of more interest to the community of folks who are gathered here than the bylaws revision, for instance, which I know is very tedious. And so I'd like to propose that we move the discussion of the resolution to support gender affirming policies, move that to now, and then shift to discuss the working groups and the bylaws after that.
Second,
Thank you.
and then
Do we
maybe we need to vote on it.
We just raise hands for it?
Sure.
Everyone supports shifting the agenda? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, great. So especially in light of the superintendent's comments, which I agree, I'm very appreciative of their strength and clarity. I would like to pass it to Angelica Cesario to summarize a resolution that we received a draft of and that Angelica has revised to fit our district.
Sure. And I want to thank our parents, additionally, District 15 parent brought this to our attention. We reviewed the resolution and then made some additional changes. So essentially, as Superintendent Alvarez stated earlier, the U.S. Department of Education's Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, Craig Trainer, sent a letter threatening to cut $15 million in funding for New York City public schools unless we roll back certain policies that protect transgender students, like using facilities that match their gender identity, for example. Our chancellor has been clear that our existing policies are lawful and they should remain in place to protect our students. So we wanted to, one, not just reject and oppose the letter from Craig Trainer, but also affirmatively and explicitly state our responsibility to protect all students, regardless of their gender identity, and that every student should feel safe, right, regardless of their gender identity. I also included recently Chicago Public Schools strongly defended their policies in response to the letter. So the resolution urges that New York City do the same and commits us to just ensuring a safe, affirmative school environment for every child, regardless of gender, gender expansive children, non-binary children, transgender, and students of all backgrounds. So that kind of sums up the resolution.
Great.
Any questions?
Yeah. Should we move to public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anybody joining us in person, on Zoom, or on the interpretation lines who has a question or comment about the resolution in support of gender affirming schools and opposing the September 16, 2025 letter from U.S. Department of Education, Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, Craig Trainer? Yeah.
Thank you for moving swiftly on this. Very important.
Yeah, agree.
Any other questions or comments from people who are here in person or joining us on Zoom? There's a comment saying just fully in support. Any other comments or questions on the interpretation lines, on Zoom or in person?
And we're seeing other expressions of support in the chat. One parent says fully in support, one person says fully in support. Another person says this is crucial for the well-being and safety of trans kids. And another person says, I echo that. Thank you for bringing it forward. Thanks everybody for those comments.
Okay, so if there are no other questions or comments, we will move to another fully support. Move to CEC comments and or questions. I'll go in reverse order this time. Kim, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, Chingsha? No? Angelica? Okay. I just want to say thank you again for moving so swiftly on this. It's critical and important, so thank you.
Yeah, it's second.
Elton?
Yes, thank you for how rapidly this came on our agenda. I really appreciate it. Some of you may know that several years ago, at my former school that my daughter just recently graduated from, PS 295, we had a large controversy with a mural that was removed from our cafeteria. And it was a preview of what we are seeing in the federal government today, because inherent in the removal of that mural was a horrific episode of gaslighting, which is where we take the idea of equity, the idea of civil rights, the idea of opportunity for all of our children, and most importantly, in that concept, the idea that all children and all of their identities have a place in our classrooms and in our society, and that everyone deserves to feel safe. And so the arguments that were used to support this children's artwork that was destroyed before the children ever got to see it, artwork that was created over a several week period in the middle of COVID by fifth graders at PS 295, was that the mural was discriminatory because there weren't enough white voices represented in the mural. And we are seeing this gaslighting continue, from 5 years ago until now. And if you look at the resolution or the ridiculous demands and the things that are presented as facts from the Department of Education, these resolutions for us, how much teeth do they have? It doesn't matter, because we have to continue preaching and talking about truth. We have to challenge facts that are clearly false, facts that are designed to minimize our children's experience, to make them feel unwelcome, and to combat the policies that we have spent years fighting for, to create safe spaces for everyone's identity in our classrooms and their ability to feel a part of their school community, and for parents to be able to feel like they have administrative, staff, community support. So it's to read this coming from the Department of Education, the assumptions that are in here that are clearly an attack on children. It's horrifying, and I'm so glad that we are able to respond, at least in our part in District 15, as quickly as we have. So thank you for everyone that was involved.
Thank you. Karen?
A major comment after that. Thank you, Ellen, for expressing that so eloquently, and thank you, Angelica, for getting this out.
Angelica?
This resolution is, a big deal for my family. I'm a parent of a trans child. We moved here from Florida so that we could be safe. And to come here and wonder, are we gonna be safe here either? It's why I ran for the CEC. It's why I do almost everything I do. So to sit here with all of you, thank you for the support. Thank you to Superintendent Alvarez, who is, I love when he said, bring it. Like, cause that's the attitude that I have. And I hope that's the attitude that we have moving forward, because like I said, there's more, there's always gonna be more. But to hear that we have our community support is everything, so thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
I won't add too much to what my colleagues have said, but I just want to add my vigorous support for this resolution, and my personal feeling that all of our students in our schools should feel safe and should feel loved, and they should feel that from their parents, and they should also feel that from the adults in their schools, and they should feel that from the families that are part of their community. And so I'm very grateful to my colleagues who moved very swiftly to get this resolution in place, and to the leadership for stating where we stand as a community.
Yeah, I also, sorry, I want to say one more thing, which is to say thank you to the parent who brought the initial draft to us in the first place. They're on the call now. I don't know if they want to be acknowledged publicly, but without that, we would not have been able to move this quickly. And it does really matter to be able to bring it forward in a timely way. So I just really want to thank that parent for bringing it to our attention. And now that enables us to share it with other CECs across the city. So hopefully this will be something that's passed not only here, but in other councils and other boroughs. So thank you.
I move to vote on the resolution.
Second.
I think, Karen, do you want to do the?
Oh, sure. Councilmember Angelica Cesario.
I vote yes in support of the resolution.
Councilmember Jonathan Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Elton Dodson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ken Eby.
Yes.
Councilmember Angelica Janunathan.
Yes.
Councilmember Katina Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Wanless.
Yes.
Councilmember Chinksha Su. Yes. Councilmember Karis Worley Muller. Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Resolutions can only do so much, but it's what we have, so we gotta start there. Okay. Sorry, it's hard to change gears back into the kind of administrative sides of things, although this also matters a lot. So, the reason that we're moving towards a bylaws revision is, which is not the next item on the agenda, we have one more thing before we get there, but the reason that we're doing that is because we want to have more ways for parents to be a part of the conversations that are happening between meetings. We know that there is so much knowledge in the parent community. There's so much passion around particular issues, and we are just not that many people up here. And so if we would like to develop working groups so that we can combine, you know, the platform that the CEC has with the care and attention and energy of other parents in the community who might want to get involved, but who are, you know, involved in other things at the same time. And so in order to be able to do that, we want to change the ways that we're meeting. We want to be able to meet once a month instead of twice a month, so that there's enough time in people's calendars to be able to have those deeper dives on particular topics. And so to be able to do all that, we have to change the bylaws. So before we talk about the bylaws, we wanted to talk a little bit about those working groups. We're not in a position yet to structure and actually implement the working groups because the bylaws have to happen first. But just as an example of the direction that we're moving, I wanted to talk about one working group that I think will be formed very quickly once this is passed, which is a working group on language access. Angelica Jaganandan and Ching-Sa Shu have been working already on some initiatives that could be something that a working group carries forward. So Ching-Sa, if you're comfortable, could you speak about testifying at City Council today? And then Angelica, you could speak about the survey. And tell us about your experience and what you shared. Our job is that the language commission and parents and students needed.
练习授权需要时间，无法一次完成。
That the information needs some time, not we can do that all in one time.
Can the translator speak up a little bit?
Okay. Yeah, because they said our job is to connect the information from the parents and the students and all the information. We need time to do that, not one time thing. Yeah.
家长语言多样，需要多语言方法。
Yeah, because parents speak a lot of language, also we need a lot versions of language.
家长参与率不高。
Also, as especially as parents, we don't have too much participation rate.
小组能力有限。
As a group, we have limited people and limited language.
我们现在问卷调查部分已经做得差不多了，现在就是在讨论一下该以什么样的方式去发数据。
We have a discussion about how to distribute our survey. Yeah, like we have online distribute like email, WeChat group, and the school website. Okay, the second one is the paper one. Whatever from the parents, teacher, conference or students bring to the home. And also we have English version, Chinese version, Spanish version. Also we have maybe on-site some instruction. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tinka. Angelica, do you want to give a little context? And if you also want to speak about, sorry, I know you listened in on some of the city council hearings, so if you want to share your impressions as a listener.
Tingsha attended the city council's hearing today on their education committee to testify of her experience with language access in the district. We put together her speech. There were a few parents. There were also interpreters who work for a company who are trying to unionize because it's very difficult on their end and they have a very high turnover. So this is a big issue throughout the city. When forms are only in English, it just makes everything harder for our non-English or speakers. Tingsha, you mentioned that your daughter has an IEP and just getting speech therapy services was difficult. It was delayed a whole year because their caseload was so heavy. And so my daughter has medical things going on and we have a 504. It's difficult to get those forms when you speak English. To have a language barrier, it makes it almost impossible. I helped her, you mentioned that someone you spoke with was having difficulty reaching the Office of Pupil Transportation. I called the hotline and they said press 1 for English or 1 for Spanish, 2 for Spanish. And there was nothing else on there. So I tried to imagine, okay, what if I didn't understand either of those directions? And it just hung up on me. So then I called back again and I just pressed 1 and I just kept pressing until I reached someone. And they said, yes, I can get an interpreter on this call, no problem. But the issue is, how would you even know how to get to that person? So there's just so many barriers. We've put together a survey. We have about 22 questions. It would take like 5 to 10 minutes to go over, just asking what, it's anonymous. Some of the questions about what child your school attends could be optional, but let us know which schools need the most attention and just identifying those opportunities for improvement.
Thank you. And one thing that was really clear in the city council hearings as well, before the parent testimony, when city council members were speaking to members of the DOE and members of the Office of Language Access, is that there are structural challenges with how language access is implemented, including whether and how feedback is gathered, what happens with that feedback if it is gathered, the working conditions for translators and interpreters. Right now, they're working towards the development of a union to increase their pay rate and to improve the working conditions that they're in. So it's there for any given family, the urgency is right there. It's that one issue. But when you're thinking about it in the context of the entire district and the entire city, it is complicated, but this is a city that can handle complicated things, and it just needs to be better. So given that the feedback from multilingual families isn't readily available, the CEC wanted to move forward with a survey of our own to try and get some of that information directly from the schools and directly from the families. So I think that's probably as far as we can take this today. We can open it maybe for discussion among the council. But this is just to show that once the bylaws are changed, once we have working groups in place, this is the kind of thing that anybody as a parent or as a community member can get involved with helping, because we can always use extra support.
So do you want to open up to comment, or should we?
I think just maybe open it up to general comment among the council. I know this is something that's still an ongoing discussion. We haven't figured out structure yet, but if there's anything that anybody wants to share or ask in the context of this meeting before we move on to talking about the bylaws, this would be a good moment.
I think just instead of going person by person, if there's anybody on the council who has a question or comment related to this shift towards the working groups. This point, yeah, Elton.
So I'm super excited about rethinking how the CEC engages with our community and how we bring in input to make that relationship more of a two-way street. One thing that you're going to get tired of hearing from me is that I think almost every issue that we discuss when it comes to family involvement and power in our community, to looking out for our students and our schools, comes down to our governance model. Our governance model is broken. It's been broken since it was incepted, conceived by the Bloomberg administration, and that governance structure is mayoral control. We have a state law that allowed that and put compromises in place, such as state mandated CECs that you see before you and the panel of education policy, but those laws really have not protected parent voice. And I think that it is time for us to use things like these working groups. This is not just a District 15 matter, obviously, but with the upcoming elections, I think there's a lot of hope and getting an administration in place in City Hall that will be open to a more democratic governance model for our schools and move away from mayoral control. Obviously, that is going to take a lot of advocacy in Albany, not just in City Hall. But now is the time for us to be proactive, engage with all of you in discussions on thinking about what that looks like, what a school board looks like, what a potential governance model looks like, how we interact and hire the chancellor for the Department of Education for New York City, so that we can move our schools towards a system that encompasses the wide range of voices and parental input that we have available to us that is currently drowned out and has no formal avenue for power because of the consolidation of power during the Bloomberg administration that has persisted to today. So I'm excited about us developing this two-way street with you and with parents and staff and other community members and subject matter experts in our community to start moving us forward towards a more inclusive model for involvement.
Thank you, Alden. Any other questions or comments from CEC members?
Yeah, generally, I just want to voice my support for the creation of working groups. I think as we see today, there are so many issues to tackle and so many areas, right, that where we want to make progress. So I think having those working groups will give us the infrastructure we need to more efficiently be able to execute and move things forward. So definitely.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from CEC members? We're good to move on to the next.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And we will definitely be relying on family support as we do move to that model, as we can't do it alone. So now it's time for everybody's favorite, which is reading aloud the proposed bylaw changes. I think that one of the first CEC meetings I went to after having been elected, when I came on midterm, was a rereading of the bylaws, and I really wondered what I had gotten myself into. So we will not blame anybody who is here as a member of the public. If
And not that the person who read it did a terrible job. She did a fantastic job.
She did do a fantastic job. So Elton, you have done the lion's share of the work in crafting these new bylaws. I think we've already kind of summarized what the main changes are, but if there's anything you want to add to that summary, and then if you can take on some of the reading, and if you want to pass it off at any point, I'm happy to spell you.
I'll be happy to read it into the record. I will just start by saying, we just talked about the vision that we have for this new model of engagement with the CEC. The bylaws that we have drafted, it's delicate because we have to thread the needle. We want to maximize the flexibility of this new working group model to allow parents, working parents, family members, subject matter experts in our community to be able to participate you know, you can't always come in person to a meeting late into the night. People work different schedules. So we want to maximize the ability to do things virtually, to meet in locations that may not necessarily be DOE facilities. We want to be able to get out in the community and bring everyone in together for these working groups. So the proposed amendments to the bylaws tonight are structured to comply with our obligations for transparency under the open meetings law in New York, to make sure that we are fulfilling our obligations to you, to do things in sunlight, so that this doesn't come across as some sort of backroom process. This is designed for sunlight, transparency, and engagement. And so these bylaws were carefully crafted to accomplish exactly that. So when you hear some of the language, listen to it in that sort of venue that we are maximizing flexibility, but protecting the transparency of the work that we do at the CEC.
Great. Thank you.
Can I just say a minute on behalf of Senator Melissa Chang, because I don't get.
Oh, please, yes, of course, sorry. Yeah, if you could just come closer to the table so the microphone can pick you up for the virtual attendees. Thanks for saying something.
I'm the district director, senior advisor for Senator Melissa Chang, from South Sunset Park. We have two schools from CEC 15. I like what I heard. Unfortunately, I cannot speak to the superintendent in that. I like the great work that you guys are doing. I love our comments. Just a quick note, we have access to almost every single public facility, community facility in Sunset Park, south of it. If you need to use it, if you want to move away from the school, having a meeting at the school, you know, our office can open those doors. If you need translation equipment, translators, we have all of that. Sunset Park is majority Chinese and Hispanic, so you know we deal with that every day, whether it's senior centers or schools or whatnot. So we're here for you. We thank you for the great work you do and for coming back. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before you leave, could I ask you to share your contact information with Jingsa in particular? Because I know she's going to be wanting to connect with Sunset Park community organizations for some of the language work. So if there's a contact point in your office that she should reach out to.
Yeah, just contact me.
Okay.
Do you have a card?
Yeah, if you've got a card, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Back to bylaws. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
All right. For the regulations and laws that apply to us, I am going to read the proposed amendments to the CEC 15 bylaws in their entirety. So the motion that we will eventually get to will be to adopt the following amendments to the bylaws of the Community Education Council for District 15. These changes replace the prior Article 5 on committees and implement an advisory working groups model that allows CEC members to participate while ensuring any outputs are non-binding community recommendations. All deliberation and decisions remain at duly noted council meetings as required by state education law. Proposed Amendment A, which will replace Article 5 in its entirety. Article 5, Working Groups and Liaisons, Section 1. Purpose, to advance the council's work while preserving transparency at regular council meetings. The council may utilize non-binding advisory working groups and designate individual liaisons. Working groups and liaisons gather information and community perspectives. All deliberation, policy development, recommendations of the council, and decision-making occur solely at meetings of the council noted and conducted under Article 3 and applicable law. Section 2, advisory working groups. A, nature. Working groups are advisory and not committees or subcommittees of the council. They do not exercise authority, transact public business, or perform any necessary function in the council decision-making process. B, composition. Working groups may include both council members and non-council participants, parents, guardians, students, educators, community partners. To ensure a community-led process, non-council participants shall always be a part of the working group's active membership at all times. C, co-leads. Each working group may have up to 2 co-leads, 1 community co-lead, non-council, and optionally, 1 council member serving as liaison co-lead. Co-leads facilitate agendas, outreach, and production of materials. They do not preside over any meeting of a public body. D, process. No council decisions. Working groups do not adopt positions on behalf of the council, do not bind the council, and shall not be assigned any task that is a necessary step in the council's decision-making. Council members participating in a working group do so without deliberating towards a council decision outside a noticed council meeting. E, outputs, community recommendations. Working groups may create informational materials, data summaries, what we heard memos, and community recommendations that reflect the viewpoints of community participants. A community recommendation must indicate concurrence by a majority of participating non-council members present at the session where the recommendation is finalized. All such documents must be clearly labeled community recommendation advisory only, not a council action. F, gatherings. Working group gatherings are for information sharing and community input. If at any time a working group is asked to screen, rank, or narrow options on behalf of the council or otherwise perform a necessary step in the council's decision-making, the matter shall be converted to a duly noticed council meeting under Article 3 before any such step occurs. Moving on to Section 3, focus areas. Did we strike this?
We haven't discussed striking it
Okay.
yet. I
So-
think we should, but yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to read Section 3, which is in the original proposal. We can discuss, I'm just going to read it. The council anticipates the following advisory working group focus areas may be useful. The council may activate, pause, or retire any working group by simple motion without creating a committee. 1, zoning capacity and admissions. 2, teaching, learning, and student experience. 3, safety, health, and wellness. 4, communications, outreach, and engagement. 5, equity, inclusion, and language access. 6, governance and policy reform. Advisory research and governance models, only community recommendations are produced outside council meetings. Section 4, liaisons. The president may designate council members as liaisons to working groups or outside entities, for example, DOT, DOE offices, community-based organizations. Liaisons gather information, coordinate logistics, and report back to the council. Liaisons shall not commit the council to a position or action and shall avoid deliberating towards a council decision outside a noticed council meeting. Section 5, transparency at the council level. The council will discuss, deliberate, and act only at meetings noticed and conducted under Article 3. Working group materials, including any community recommendations, will be included in meeting packets and posted with council agendas consistent with Article 3 to facilitate public awareness of the council's deliberations. Section 3, prohibited delegations. The council shall not delegate to any working group authority to take council action or to adopt recommendations on behalf of the council. Any prioritization or ranking offered by a working group shall be labeled as a community recommendation and considered by the council only at a duly noticed meeting. Section 7, transition, sunset of prior committees. Any previously created committees of the council is dissolved upon adoption of this article unless expressly continued by resolution as a council meeting or hearing format under Article 3. The council may convert prior committee work into a working group information gathering effort consistent with this article. And that will be the entirety of proposed amendments to that section of our bylaws. Proposed amendment B, which are just conforming edits to the other articles to make them consistent with the previously read proposed changes. Article 2, officers. Replace any clause stating that the president is ex officio on all committees with the following. The president may participate in working groups and may designate council member liaisons pursuant to Article 5, provided that working groups do not transact council business. Any matter requiring deliberation among council members shall be conducted at a duly noticed council meeting under Article 3. Second, Article 3 changes for meetings. Add The council will post with its agendas any informational materials received from working groups, including community recommendations that are relevant to the items on the meeting agenda. Change 3, that will be for Article 4, voting thresholds. Wherever the bylaws refer to committee reports or committee recommendations, replace that terminology with working group materials or community recommendations as context requires. No change to the requirement that council actions be approved by a majority of the whole number of the council or by 7 votes where specified. 4 changes to Article 5, which are cross references. Just throughout the bylaws, replace references to committees with working groups when describing advisory bodies. All other references remain unchanged. And finally, conforming change to Article 7, which is amendments and implementation. These amendments take effect immediately upon adoption. The secretary shall publish a clean, updated copy of the bylaws reflecting these changes and archive the superseded version. And then the third one, which should read actually Amendment B, which is discussing the combination of our business and calendar meetings. So this will replace Article 3, Sections 4 and 5 with the following. Section 4, calendar meetings, which is what we're having tonight. Sub A, the council shall hold a calendar meeting at least once each month at which formal decisions and resolutions will be considered and voted upon, and where the public will have the opportunity to address the council. B, the calendar meeting shall be held on the last Tuesday of each month at 7:45 p.m. In the event this day falls on a legal or school holiday, the calendar meeting shall be held on the Tuesday prior at 7:45 p.m. Sub C, the calendar meeting shall convene only after the business working meeting held earlier the same evening has adjourned. D, notice and public access for calendar meetings shall be provided as described in Article 3, Section 1. Next section, Section 5, involving our business working meetings, the last of which we had earlier this month. Sub A business working meeting shall be held on the same evening as the monthly calendar meeting and shall precede it. B, the business working meeting shall be held on the last Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. In the event this day falls on a legal or school holiday, the business working meeting shall be held on Tuesday prior at 6:30 p.m. C, the business working meeting shall be called to order, conduct council business, and then adjourn prior to the calendar meeting being called to order. D, in the event there is unfinished business or time-sensitive matters, the council may vote to schedule an additional business working meeting as needed. And finally, sub E, the public shall be notified of all business working meetings as described in Article 3, Section 1. In the appendix are just some implementation recommendations, but will not be part of the bylaw proposal. Thank you for listening, Nola.
Thank you, Alton. I can't remember all of the protocol, but I have a couple of comments about the revisions so far. Can I just?
I think I'm deferring to Anthony. Can we just talk about possible revisions right now as a group? That's okay?
Great.
Okay.
So I think that the section that discusses the topics, Section 3 of Article 5. I think in the interest of keeping these as flexible as possible, I think that we could strike this section and just take the clause that says the council may activate, pause, or retire any working group by simple motion without creating a committee, and instead make that Section 2, item G, like creation and dissolution of committees or something, or of working groups. That's one thing. And then this is something that I have as a question, which is order of the meetings. Jonathan raised a good point that 7:45 might be late, especially if we are having, principals speak at the calendar meeting and folks who are kind of in a continuation of their workday, families need to get home, all of that. I know no time is perfect, and for some folks, the later time is actually better. But I wonder if we might think about doing the reverse and having the calendar meeting first and the business meeting after. And then last thing is the meeting dates. Right now, I think our calendar is Or you did run the second Tuesday of the month?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I only noticed it on this week. I didn't notice it before.
Yeah, I made a note about that too.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
great. And those are the only comments I've got, is timing, which week, and committee topics. Everything else I think looks really solid. Thank you.
I agree. Do people agree, like in terms of the meeting timing? To do the calendar meeting first means that family members and superintendents and others can go home by 7:45. And then
That's much better.
Yeah.
we stick around till 9 o'clock, 9:30 for the business related stuff.
Yeah, that's what we're paid to do.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Which meeting would that fall into, the earlier the business meeting or the calendar?
So the working groups would meet separately.
Finding discussion.
The findings. Oh, that's a good question. I think those would go into calendar meetings,
I
yeah?
think calendar.
Yeah. That would be my answer.
I just have a question about the composition / co-leads. Where do we land? According to this, we're saying, so the working groups may have up to 2 co-leads. A council member optionally could serve as co-lead. Do we want to make it so that every lead or every working group should have a council co-lead, and or make it so that every working group has a council member be a part of it? I think right now I read that as optional.
So if not a co-lead, at least a liaison or a member, like something.
Yeah, I think there should be some kind of council member presence in each working group.
Yeah, otherwise it doesn't make
I
sense.
agree.
Is that how you're understanding liaisons?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we could, on section 4, we could change may, the president may designate to shall. I think that's fine. I mean, I think we're still plenty covered legally on that, so.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make you feel clear about that? Yeah.
So just to be clear, because I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. Are we saying that we want a council member on each working group?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
They don't have to be a co-lead. But I think each working group does need to have a council member
okay.
on it. Mhm.
And with the liaison.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
At least a liaison.
And can I propose, I was looking at the calendar dates, switching gears, and it does look like we've been landing, at least for the rest of the year, on the second Tuesday. So just switching the last Tuesday to the second Tuesday.
It's honestly so weird to me that meeting dates are inscribed in the bylaws.
So, yeah, so this amendment said the last Tuesday of each month, but looking at our proposed calendar for the rest of this academic year, we landed on trying to combine meetings for the second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Mhm. So like February 10th, March 10th.
Yeah, that was my oversight, I apologize.
No.
No.
No need to apologize, Elton. You did so much work on this, it's okay.
This stuff is such a bear. Okay.
So do we need to vote on these suggested changes,
We
like
vote.
each separately or
Could
collectively?
just say on the proposed changes that were announced.
Okay,
Okay.
and then we just make those changes and then we reread it at the next meeting with those changes and vote on it?
And then we're good? Okay.
Okay.
Great. So I would like to make a motion to incorporate the changes that we discussed tonight, which were removing the specifically named standing committees, switching the order of calendar and business meetings, so that the calendar meeting precedes the business meeting, and switching the timing to be the second Tuesday of each month.
And also you would want to, and shall instead of may. And then also you want to, so I'm trying to find where it was here. To add, when we got rid of the suggested working groups, to add a change clause
Yeah, above,
that phrase from section 3,
Mhm.
strike section 3, but retain that second phrase.
Correct.
The second phrase.
And make it G of section 2.
Yes.
Yes.
So my motion is to incorporate those changes that we just discussed into the proposed revisions for the next reading.
Second.
I just wanted to make sure that we move quickly. Are there any
Oh,
other
yeah, sorry.
comments or potential revisions that people see beyond these, I think, 5 revisions that Katina just mentioned?
Just,
Yes.
just shall still seems like it's an option. It doesn't seem like it's a requirement. So is it a requirement that you're trying to make it that council member is on each committee?
So must.
Group?
I think shall is pretty definitive.
Yeah.
That was.
The lawyers in the room think that.
Lawyers love the word shall.
It's like a very pleasant way of saying.
You will.
Do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Must is better. There's a comment.
Oh, there's
If
a
it,
comment?
yeah, if it's a requirement, then must is better. I don't think we should have.
And in the
So,
regulations, we. Sorry.
Well, then,
Must maybe.
that makes it more consistent, then
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
We must make that change.
We must, and we shall.
yeah, yeah. So we don't want it, a working committee without a
Yeah.
council member. So that's what we don't want. Okay.
Okay, great.
Has somebody written down all of these? I just want to make sure you got them all.
Why don't we use the word better?
Sorry to take us back, Esther. I
No,
just want to
I
make
think
sure.
it's smart. Any other? Okay.
Just want to say thank you to Kim, another Kim, that made that suggestion about must, who's online.
Cams are great. You can't go wrong with cams.
And thank you to you, Kim, for your input on this process too. I know it's gone hand in hand with the working group guidelines. Okay, so in that case, I'll restate my motion. Or re-put it out there. And move again.
Nice, second again.
Okay.
Do we have to go person by person? To
If you're, does everybody agree?
everyone agree?
Agreed. Yeah, agree.
Great. Okay, that's one down. We only have to do this one more time. Everybody, it's great. Join us next month. All
We'll
right.
change our calendar a bit, right?
We
Or do we anticipate?
published the calendar with the anticipation of changing the bylaws. Yeah. All right. So with that, I had made a note that there's still some pending liaisons that we need for D75 schools. I think we'll keep talking about that offline. Before we open it up for one last general public comment, just a couple of notes on upcoming dates. Our next, so we won't be consolidating the meetings until after the next calendar meeting. So our next business meeting is October 14th, and that'll be back at the district office at 131 Livingston. Our next calendar meeting is October 28th, and that will be at PS 516, which is on 4th Avenue in Sunset Park. A little further down the road, December 1st will be the Chancellor's Town Hall, which is going to be at HS 656, 345 Dean Street. We tried to make that close to Atlantic Terminal so that it's easy for folks to get to from across the district. There's a bunch of resources available for you in the agenda, our calendar, the list of school liaisons, some community resources if there's folks at your schools who need things like, know your rights information and things like that. So that's all I've got. I'll open it up for one last general public comment.
Yeah. Ken, did you have something?
No.
Okay, so I think final public comment or questions. I'm gonna open up to everybody who is here in person and everybody joining on Zoom and in the interpretation rooms. Silence says it all.
Great. In that case, I move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Great, adjourned at 8:45.
Hi.
Wow, okay. Didn't even have to use the gavel. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming and sticking with it.
That skill set's gonna be important when we combine the mission.
Good Lord.
Yes.
I'm a little.